All right, so we've got this whole stack of research papers about forecasting.
Yeah.
Looks like you've been really digging into some serious data science.
Yeah, it's been pretty fascinating stuff.
And we see you're really interested in this idea of forecasting at scale,
Right.
which I guess just means like, how do we make accurate predictions when we're dealing with huge amounts of data?
Yeah, exactly. And all the challenges that come with that.
Yeah, and it seems like you're especially interested in how this all plays out in the real world.
Yeah.
You know, things like business planning or resource allocation in these big, complex systems like cloud computing.
Absolutely. Those are some of the areas where forecasting is having a huge impact.
So we've dug into these papers and we've got some really interesting insights to share with you.
I think listeners are going to find this stuff really fascinating.
Yeah, it's a glimpse into the future, basically, how we can predict what's coming next using data.
It really is. And one thing that struck me is how much these papers emphasize the limits of those traditional forecasting methods,
Oh,
especially when you're dealing with the kind of data you find in businesses and cloud services. You know,
it's messy.
it's messy. Exactly.
It's not like those textbook examples
Right.
where everything's nice and predictable.
I don't know.
One paper actually uses this really cool example. They talk about forecasting how many Facebook events will be created each day.
Okay.
Now think about that for a second. You know, you've got holidays, you've got product launches. Even just the day of the week can cause these huge swings in the data.
Oh, absolutely. And those are the kinds of things that can really throw off traditional models.
Yeah, because they're looking for these smooth historical trends,
Mm-hmm.
and then bam, you get this big spike or this big dip, and suddenly the forecast is way off.
Right. And that can lead to some pretty big miscalculations in business planning or resource allocation.
So how are the experts dealing with this? These papers keep mentioning something called profit.
Yeah, profit is a really interesting forecasting model.
What is that?
Well, it was actually developed by Facebook.
Oh, specifically to deal with these messy, real-world time series.
Okay.
And what makes it so special is it uses this modular approach.
Okay.
It breaks the forecast down into separate components.
Okay.
So you've got your trends, you've got seasonality, and you've got holidays.
Okay, so help me understand this. What does that actually look like in practice?
So basically, each component has these intuitive parameters that analysts can actually adjust, even if they're not, statistics experts.
Oh, that's interesting.
So for example, let's say, there's a major product launch coming up.
Yeah.
You can actually tell Profit, hey, expect a change in trend around this specific date.
Oh.
Or let's say you have data on market size. You can actually incorporate that into the model to predict like the maximum potential of a growing trend.
So it's almost like you're giving the model these hints based on your real-world knowledge.
Exactly. You're bringing in that domain expertise.
That's really interesting.
And that's one of the key things that these papers emphasize.
Yeah, is that Profit is designed to work with human intuition. It's not trying to just replace it with algorithms.
That's a really important distinction.
It's this idea of the analyst in the loop.
I like that.
It's not about saying humans are out of the picture, now we have these algorithms that'll do it all for us.
Right.
It's about empowering analysts to use their knowledge to make the model even better.
So you could say it lets you kind of bake real-world knowledge into your forecasts.
Exactly, and that leads to more accurate predictions.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a really cool approach.
But wouldn't that also kind of introduce like human bias into the model?
That's a really good point, and it highlights the importance of being really careful about the inputs and assumptions that we're putting into these models.
Mm-hmm.
So while human expertise is super valuable, we always have to be aware of potential biases and make sure we're using a combination of data and domain knowledge to make those informed decisions.
That makes sense. So you mentioned earlier that cloud computing poses some unique challenges for forecasting. What makes it so different from something like predicting Facebook events?
Well, the second research paper that we have here dives into how companies like Amazon use forecasting to optimize resource allocation
Okay.
for services like Redshift serverless.
Yeah, okay.
And one of the things they highlight is just the incredible diversity of cloud workloads.
Okay.
Each customer has their own unique mix of like spiky patterns, seasonal patterns,
Right.
and that makes accurate forecasting really, really tough.
It's almost like trying to manage traffic flow on a highway with like thousands of on-ramps and off-ramps,
Yeah,
each with its own kind of unpredictable flow of cars.
that's a great analogy.
How do you even start to predict that kind of chaos?
Well, that's exactly where traditional forecasting methods start to break down.
Yeah.
Just like with Facebook events, they struggle to keep up with these super dynamic workloads that you find in the cloud.
So what's the solution?
Well, one approach that this paper explores is using ensemble models.
Okay, ensemble models. I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So imagine you have a team of expert forecasters,
Okay.
each with their own strengths and weaknesses,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
An ensemble model is basically combining the predictions of multiple forecasting algorithms.
Wow. Interesting.
So it's like having this team of experts all collaborating to make a more robust prediction.
I see, but wouldn't combining multiple models also combine, like, their weaknesses?
That's a great question, and it's something we're going to dig into next. It's not just about, throwing any old models together.
Right.
Building a really effective ensemble model. It's a bit of an art and a science.
Oh, I bet.
You need the expertise to understand those different forecasting algorithms,
Mm-hmm.
to know the characteristics of the data,
Yeah.
and also to align with the goals of what you're actually trying to predict.
So there's still a lot of human judgment that goes into crafting these models.
Absolutely. It's not something you can just set and forget.
Not a plug-and-play solution.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
Definitely not. The researchers in this paper, they really emphasize how important that customization is. That careful tuning. They found that ensemble models that were specifically tailored to the characteristics of each workload,
Mm-hmm.
those performed way better than those kind of generic off-the-shelf models.
It's like assembling a world-class orchestra.
Oh, I like that.
Each musician, or in this case, each forecasting algorithm has unique talents,
Right.
but it takes a really skilled conductor, in this case, the data scientist, to bring it all together.
To create that symphony of accurate predictions.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love that analogy.
But even with this carefully crafted ensemble, I imagine there are still times when, those unpredictable spikes, they catch even the most sophisticated models off guard.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right.
The real world just loves to throw those curveballs.
The future is inherently unpredictable.
Yeah. Yep.
No model can account for every possible scenario.
So how do these cloud providers like Amazon, how do they handle those moments when the forecast falls short and demand suddenly spikes?
Right, they can't just leave their customers hanging.
Exactly.
Well, the paper talks about this concept called reactive scaling.
Reactive scaling.
Yeah, it's essentially like a plan B for when the forecast misses the mark.
So it's like having a backup generator.
Exactly.
Ready to kick in when the power goes out.
Always be prepared.
Yeah.
So reactive scaling means having systems in place that can very quickly detect and respond to those sudden changes in demand,
Okay.
even if the forecast didn't predict them.
It's all about being adaptable, right?
It is. It's about being able to adjust to those unexpected events.
Having a plan for the unexpected.
Yeah, and that's crucial in cloud computing.
Yeah, with all those dynamic workloads.
Right. It's a delicate balance
Mhm.
between proactive planning based on the forecast
Mm.
and reactive responses to those inevitable surprises.
That makes me think this balancing act probably applies to a lot more than just cloud computing.
Oh, absolutely.
Whether it's, business decisions or even just personal goals, being able to adapt to the unexpected. That's important.
It's a valuable skill in any field.
This whole deep dive has really given me a new appreciation for just how complex forecasting is,
Yeah.
especially in a dynamic environment like the cloud.
It's definitely more nuanced than it might seem at first glance.
It really is, and it's constantly evolving, too.
That's right. As we get more data and our computational capabilities keep growing,
Mm-hmm.
the potential of forecasting, it's just going to keep increasing.
It's mind-blowing to think about all the ways forecasting is used behind the scenes.
It really is.
Optimizing businesses, managing resources, predicting the weather.
And we're only scratching the surface.
Yeah.
As new techniques and models emerge, we're going to see even more innovative applications of forecasting.
So speaking of new techniques and models,
Mm-hmm.
what are some of the advancements that you're most excited about?
That's a great question. One area that I'm really interested in is the growing role of machine learning in forecasting.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
We've seen with ensemble models how effective these algorithms can be
Mm-hmm.
at identifying those complex patterns in the data.
Patterns that traditional methods might completely miss.
Yeah, machine learning, it seems perfect for a task like forecasting.
Right.
Because the whole point is to learn from past data to make predictions about the future.
Exactly. And as these algorithms keep improving, we can expect even more accurate and sophisticated forecasts.
Oh.
Even in those really dynamic and complex environments like cloud computing.
That's exciting. What other advancements do you think are going to have a big impact on forecasting?
Another trend that I find fascinating is the increasing availability of real-time data.
Oh, wow.
With the rise of the Internet of Things and all these sensors collecting data from everywhere,
Yeah.
we have this incredible amount of information about what's happening right now.
Right now.
And that can be incredibly valuable for forecasting.
So it's like having a crystal ball
Yeah,
that's constantly updating itself with the latest information.
precisely. And by incorporating that real-time data into our models,
Mm-hmm.
we can create these even more dynamic and responsive predictions.
That's amazing. And that helps us make better decisions in a world that's changing faster than ever.
It's like a perfect storm of technological advancement.
It's a really exciting time to be involved in this field.
It sounds like it.
I can't wait to see what breakthroughs and innovations emerge in the years to come.
This has been an incredible journey through the world of forecasting at scale.
That has.
We've learned about the challenges of predicting the future with data,
Mm-hmm.
explored those cutting-edge models like profit and ensemble models,
Right.
and we've highlighted how important those human analysts are in this whole process.
Absolutely.
We even talked about how cloud providers handle those moments when real-world demand spikes unexpectedly.
Those curveballs.
Exactly. Before we wrap up, I'd love to hear your final thoughts on the significance of forecasting in this increasingly data-driven world.
Yeah, I think the key takeaway here is that forecasting, it's not just about predicting the future.
Okay.
It's about understanding it better.
I like that.
By using data to gain insights into those patterns and trends, we can make more informed decisions, allocate resources more effectively,
Yeah.
and ultimately shape a future that's more aligned with our goals and aspirations.
So for you listening, I encourage you to think about how forecasting can be used in your own life or work.
Yeah.
Whether it's, making better business decisions,
Right.
planning for those personal goals, or even just gaining a deeper understanding of the world around you.
Absolutely.
It's amazing to think about how many different areas forecasting touches. We've talked about business planning and cloud computing,
Right.
but it seems like it's used everywhere.
Oh, absolutely.
Predicting disease outbreaks, optimizing traffic flow. It's like forecasting is behind so many aspects of our lives.
It really is. It's a truly multidisciplinary field.
Yeah.
It draws on insights and techniques from statistics, computer science, economics, even psychology.
It's almost like a universal language for making sense of the world.
I like that.
You're taking all that complex data and translating it into something we can actually use.
Yeah. Exactly. It's about turning data into insights.
Now, we focused a lot on the technical side of things in this deep dive.
Right.
But I'm curious about the human element,
Yeah.
What makes someone a truly great forecaster?
That's a great question.
Is it all about being like a math whiz?
Well, math skills are definitely important, but I think beyond that, a great forecaster needs a healthy dose of curiosity.
Okay.
They're constantly asking questions, seeking new information, challenging assumptions.
So it's more about having that curious mind
Yeah,
and being willing to explore different perspectives.
exactly. And not being afraid to be wrong sometimes,
That's a good point. Yeah.
because forecasting, it's a blend of analytical rigor and creative thinking.
Interesting.
You need to be able to see both the forest and the trees, so to speak.
I like that.
Grasp those big picture trends, but also pay attention to the subtle details that might reveal a shift in the pattern.
It sounds like a real balancing act.
It is.
What other qualities do you think are essential for success in forecasting?
Well, communication is a big one.
Okay.
Being able to communicate complex information clearly and concisely. Because often forecasters have to present their findings to stakeholders who might not be familiar with statistics or modeling.
Right.
So being able to translate those insights into actionable recommendations, that's crucial.
So it's not just about being right.
No.
It's about being able to explain your reasoning and convince others to actually act on those predictions.
Exactly. And in a way, a great forecaster is also a great storyteller.
Oh, interesting.
They can weave a narrative around the data,
Mm-hmm.
highlight the key takeaways, and paint a compelling picture of what the future might hold.
It's about bringing those numbers to life.
It is making them meaningful.
And that's a valuable skill in any field.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And finally, I think it's important for forecasters to be comfortable with uncertainty.
Oh, that's a good one.
No matter how sophisticated our models become, the future will always have surprises.
Right.
So being able to adapt and adjust those predictions as new information emerges, that's crucial.
So being flexible in your thinking,
Yeah,
open to revising your predictions.
exactly. Forecasting,
Mm-hmm.
it's not about claiming to know the future with absolute certainty.
Right.
It's about using the best available data and our judgment to make informed decisions, knowing that the future is always in flux.
I love that this deep dive has been incredible. We've covered so much.
It has been a fascinating journey.
You know, the challenges of predicting the future, the power of those models like profit and ensemble models,
Hmm.
and the really crucial role that human analysts play in all of this.
Absolutely.
And we've explored how widely forecasting is used, from business to healthcare and everything in between.
It's everywhere.
It really is. So to you listening, we hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity about the power of forecasting.
I hope so.
And as we've learned, it's not just about predicting the future. It's about understanding it better, making more informed decisions, and shaping a future that aligns with your goals. Thanks for joining us.